Hey y'all, welcome to For the Fans Entertainment, where tonight we are going to be talking about the second episode of Survivor 42, where we got to see a blindfolded challenge, some advantages found, and another person voted off of the island. So tonight I'm joined by Robbie, Kevin, and Sheldon. So if y'all just watch our Survivor stuff, you may not know Sheldon, but he's been covering our BB Can, and we're very glad to have him with us tonight. So how are you gentlemen doing?
Awesome.
Good, man.
I'm doing fantastic. I'm happy to. I keep getting proven wrong a little bit with my reads on my precast assessment, and I'm loving it because I like being surprised. And 2 episodes in, there's a few people who are making me eat my words. A couple that are living up to expectations, but a few that are surprises. So pleasantly surprised.
There was some pleasant surprises this episode. Some people that we definitely dogged, like we're having better gameplay than expected, and some that we thought highly of that are not doing as well as we thought.
I mean, I don't want to say I told y'all so. We're going to get there, but I told y'all so. Okay.
About what? About what? I can't wait.
You're gonna have to wait.
We'll get there. You know,
We're
we
gonna
have
have
to
to wait.
we have to build up the excitement.
Okay, I'm
And
building.
also, happy St. Patrick's Day. Canadians, do y'all not celebrate this? Because
Oh yeah, you know what's funny? I'm rocking Jurassic Park here tonight, and totally forgot to throw. I should put my St. Pat. I got a St. Pat's shirt on. I don't know. Should I change? Should I change live on the air here? I got a Toronto Maple Leaf St. Pat's. This is a St. Patrick's.
We'll get them more viewers. If
I
know
love,
that you're
I
doing
love
live
that
stream.
St. Pat's gear for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't. The last time I celebrated St. Patrick's Day was in university. This was 10 years ago. I probably am just too old for it now.
well, that's all right. Okay, so digging in to this episode, we get going straight back to the Ika Beach after we have voted out Zach. So, what do y'all think about the dynamics? Looks like they're setting Tori up to go next, but she's got some things she's going to try and work on. So,
Yeah, we hear from Romeo right away. Basically, you know, it was a sad truth that Zach had to go, but you could tell he was a little bit hurt that he had that, Skinny Guys Alliance going. He was hoping to make as many connections, and Romeo did fantastic in the first episode, spreading out as many connections as he could make safely. And unfortunately, one got burned for him there, but those connections he made might have kept him safe too, right? Because his name never really came up.
yeah.
I appreciate it with Tori's mentioning how she was sad that he had to go, but at the same time, she was hoping to maybe get a little bit of bed, sleep in a nice bed, and get a little food. To me, that's not saying that you wish you weren't out there. It was saying this shit is hard.
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit of a reprieve.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy to think this is your dream and it's only been 3 days. And she was like, I did have that slight moment where maybe I wouldn't have minded being voted out.
Yeah, I think they're setting us up for something maybe a week or 2 or 3 weeks down the line, where maybe Tori has a little bit of a emotional breakdown, emotional issues where it just gets to her. But that said, I whenever I see moments like that in the beginning of a season, I always go back to Aubrey's first or second episode where she's crying. You don't think she's going to last. And then, she becomes one of, for me, actually my favorite players of all time. So you never know what's going to happen. I don't know. I think that when you have 3 tribes of 6, unless you have an individual who is really not liked, which I don't think happened in this Ika tribe, it's very hard to see anybody go. It's far easier when you have bigger tribes where you sort of have laggards, you sort of have people who don't contribute. So I strangely, I felt for all of them. I don't think anybody wanted to get rid of anybody.
No.
There was nothing malicious. It was just part of the game. We got to vote somebody out. We lost.
And when you have such small tribes, you get to know each other extremely well. That's one of the, even when I play in orgs, if I'm playing on a small group, you're working together closely, you're chatting with each other. There's only so many people to talk to. You get a lot closer. You become a little family, if you will. And especially in a situation where there's no food, you have to legitimately rely on each other. That's just it kind of happens like that, and it kind of gets there. It's tough.
Yeah. You're right. And I think the small tribes is something that we don't talk about enough. I know I mentioned it a couple times and you just said there, Kevin, but I think you could mention that for a lot of the issues that happen with these folks, right? I mean, if you're on a 9-person tribe or, give or take, you can completely ignore 3 people.
Yeah.
Right. Like there can be 3 people you don't jive with, whatever. You know what? I'll say, hey, good morning. And then that's it. And if we got to go to tribal, I'm sorry, you're out. If you did that 3 people on this, that's half your tribe. You're screwed. You know what I mean? Like it's a huge difference.
I'll also say that I find this cast as a whole, aside from just a handful of people, maybe just a few, these are more than your average Joe than I think we usually have on Survivor. And I'm also comparing this to being a big fan of Australian Survivor, where you basically have these Olympians who are competing against each other. Every single man looks like, I think his name is Jonathan from this season, with the big muscles who carries that boat all by himself. Everybody looks like that. And then you kind of watch this and you feel like it's, your grade 5 dodgeball team against the Olympic dodgeball team or something. And these are such different games, and it's so amazing to see. It's awesome to actually see how these really average Joes and average Janes, they figure out how to make a fire. They figure out how to build a house.
And what's interesting is, we have like Chanel talking on the Green Tribe, and she's like, I was expecting to come out here and there'd be some guy that would step up and be the provider, but like I'm looking around and he's not here. So I guess I'm going to do that. And so, really stepping out of her realm, and we do see her and Jenny catch a little hermit crab and provide for their tribe.
It's crazy though, because talking about the casting, like the casting has, no offense to Lynn Spillman, Jesse Tenenbaum has really just stepped up since he took over like in 2018. He just really has been able to knock the ball out the park with the cast that they're able to get each and every season. Last season was an extremely well-liked and great dynamic cast. This season's the same. 39 was the first season that he kind of took over, and that one had like some hits and some misses. But really with 41 and 42, is really like showing that there's a dynamic pool of players out here that are just likable, even ones we thought we wouldn't like.
Well, and relatable.
Romeo was one that we were like panning and killing this game. So it's just interesting because, like you said, like we were all saying, with such a few people on a tribe, it makes it really tough.
Yeah, so Andrew asked, talking about the food issue, Hai looked super unhappy and hungry. And we did see him in this episode struggling with the fact that he is a vegan. And is he going to kind of go against his morals and provide his body with some energy, but doing something he really, really doesn't agree with?
That was what was so interesting, because watching Hai literally have an internal struggle about whether I bend my veganism or not, because when you go out there, you're like, I'm sure he was. He said that he was like, okay, if we had some rice, I'm just gonna eat this rice. It's gonna be bland, but it is what it is. But when they're like, hey, no rice, the only thing you're not plowing the fields and getting grains, right? The only thing you can do is hunt and kill.
Yeah.
How else is he supposed to eat? And I think he realized that very early on.
Yeah.
Which is tough.
Well, I see a different angle on that too, where this is an opportunity for Hai to game this, right? Look how hard he visibly struggled to go against something he believed in, and everybody got to see that. And if he wanted to game that a little bit, if he showed that same, even if it was fake, if he showed that same loyalty, like that same energy towards, if he swore on something, right? Like I would never swear on this and I swear on it, right? Or I would never do this and I'll do it. That has a lot of power with the people that just witness that, right? Because it shows how hard and how honest he means. So he could weaponize, how much people just saw how strong his convictions are.
So Sheldon, let me ask you, if you are out on the island, what would you be willing to compromise of your morals?
Anything.
All of
them.
I knowing me, I would get there. I would fall in love with everybody. I would have the biggest heart problem, but you generally only get to play Survivor one time. And if you don't go there willing to make decisions and make choices that are probably going to go against what you really believe in, you're about to lose. And listen, you won't lose your morals, and that's fine. But you're not playing the game of morals. You're playing the game of Survivor. You're playing two different games. In your life, you use your morals. In your life, you focus on your values. But from that high scene, what I loved, I'll just put this out there. My person of this episode was my star of the episode was Chanel. My girl, Chanel, who I played an org with, my first ever org. There she was on that island, picking up these crabs, cooking
These
them.
hermit crabs, yeah.
She's from New York City. There's no crabs in New York City. She doesn't catch rats and cooks them in New York City. And then Hai is emotional. What happens with Hai? She goes to console him. And we're going to get to this, I'm sure, later on in the episode. Who comes to tell Chanel information about Mike? Well, Daniel does. So here's Chanel infiltrating this game on a social level, on a physical level, providing for them, consoling people. Holy crap, she's playing it hard, and I don't think anybody has a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, Chanel being the provider, the provider, Chanel, this 100% city kid out here catching her and was it her and Jenny?
Her and Jenny, yeah.
I think so.
Out here.
And I mean, they wrapped it up all tied in their little, palm fronds.
I would be scared to touch it, and Jenny went in there with her fingers.
Yeah, so that's interesting. It's always fun to see people really getting out of their comfort zone because I am like, and Chanel gives that confessional in this episode where she's like, I don't like mosquitoes. I don't like bugs. And in the first episode, we had Lydia talking about, I don't want to be in the sun. Like, look at my skin, y'all. I am pale like Lydia. I'm with you, girl. And so it's fun to see people just completely out of their comfort zone and how they're able to adapt. And so I think that really, really was showcased with Chanel. So pretty impressive from her.
And then we swung over to the
we get over to the old Taku tribe.
Yeah.
And we get
a lot of energy.
Marianne looking like she is,
There's Marianne.
Jason straight out of a scary movie, chopping up some firewood.
Yeah.
So this is where I wanted to say it, y'all. I told y'all last week that Marianne could be a lot and that could put her into trouble. And
no, but
very early on, you get Mariah saying, hey, she is, on 100 from the time she gets up until the time she goes to sleep. And if it's bothering people on day 5, it is going to bother people even more on day 20.
No, I maintain that on day 5 it's annoying. On day 15 it's endearing. That's how that works. That day 5 is definitely annoying. We've only seen you for 5
don't know,
days.
man. I think the more you're hungry and the more you're sleep deprived. But I think the bigger twist about that for me wasn't that Marianne was as high energy, because we saw her ramble in her preseason press and all that stuff. And one of the guesses that we had was, yeah, she might be a little high energy, a little rambly. But I didn't think Mariah. Well, I thought she was cast to be the parent character, right? And when you can't handle that just for a couple of days, you're already burnt out. That shocked me. I'm not saying every parent should never get burnt out, because I get burnt out faster than most. But I just didn't think that was the casting. Like when I saw Mariah's character coming into this, I thought, okay, she is literally there to be the parent to the younger person. That's every tribe has that parent figure. And it shocked me that it was Mariah coming out being the one that was the most frustrated. I thought it would be, just pretty much anybody else.
I thought the Mariah was going to be the mother Jerry from season Australian Outback. Like, there's something about her that reminds me a little bit of Jerry. But was she miscast? Like, was it a mistake to bring somebody who just lost a sibling?
That was tough.
Was that a mistake to bring somebody? Because my gut says she emotionally wasn't there in the game yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen this in casting a lot lately, right? We've had people that are going through very difficult issues, and oh God, who was it? I want to say Sarah last season. First boot. Who's first boot last season?
Sarah, yeah.
Sarah, yeah. So, or first episode boot, I guess.
Yeah.
Sarah had, I think, the similar thing where it was only a couple months beforehand, and very similar. I think Sarah was a second boot. That like it was very, very similar storyline. So maybe you're onto something, Sheldon, where I get it and I understand. The show is trying to give everybody an opportunity to grow and to find more than money on the island. And showing powerful stories like this is well, it is what it is. It's a powerful story, but it walks a fine line on capitalizing on people's hardships versus equal casting, and they happen to be going through hardships. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, it felt 2 seasons in a row. It felt, yeah, you might be onto something there, Sheldon.
I felt the exact same way about Jackson from last episode. He should not have been put in there. The second they found out what was going on with him, he was put in there to be used.
To be fair, all of these people applied. They all wanted to be on there.
But you're not going to say no if they give you an invitation, Robbie.
Right, fair. But like I said, it's not up to us. I agree with you, Sheldon. But on the other hand, flip of the coin, it's not up to us to say, okay, you weren't ready. If they feel like they're ready and they want to go in, but I do see some similarities in 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot to process. We also get Omar talking about his religion and that he is a Muslim, and how much the perception of being a Muslim has changed from 2001 to today. And I think it was a good learning moment because you have Marianne, who is a seminary student, and Jonathan speaks up about being a Christian, and Lindsay is Jewish. And so once again, just really showing, like a blending, not just of different races, but different cultures and different religions, and just being able to learn more about people and seeing it in a different light than what you might commonly expect.
It was a shock to me that we are getting so much character study in 2 episodes. We've learned about so many people, and there's still so many to learn about, because if everyone's getting this kind of love, there's a couple people out there that we still need to hear from, like a Chanel or like a Lindsay, get a little deeper in their story, because they might not be huge players in the game, but the backstory we're getting from these characters is just amazing. And I feel like I really am learning about them. Watching Omar go out there and pray on the beach was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
And Marianne making the palm frond. I was just calling it a mat. I don't know if there's a term for it, but seeing the in a form of acceptance. Do you know what I mean? Just saying, like not just acceptance, but support, right? Just complete welcoming. And something that's worth noting here is if you go back to season 40, so two seasons ago, I loved that season, but my biggest complaint was we didn't get any camp life. We got challenge, and then we got exile, and then we got back to the challenge, then we got to tribal, and I didn't get enough strategizing. We got some, right? The show obviously has some, but we didn't get a lot of camp life. And now last season we saw in 41 that we got a little bit more, a lot of the backstories and a lot of the personal angle. And then without these people even seeing 41, they're upping it again. And the reason why I say they're upping it is because this isn't confessionals that we're getting all this information, right? This isn't them sitting down in production saying, tell me about your background, tell me about this, right? These are guys at the campfire or on the beach, and they're just opening up. And I think this is what happens. You do casting that's so representative of so many groups. People just want to talk and share about themselves.
I don't think that's the case, though. I think that this has always happened, but they're now choosing to show it, because you're out there for 39 days. It used to be, right? You got to talk about literally everything under the sun. Because there's only so much to talk about. So these character moments have probably always happened, and finally we get to see them.
That could very well be it too, right? We're only 3 or 4 days in at this point, like before.
Like 5 days,
right? And we've heard a lot of information.
A lot of stories, really deep,
a lot of people.
Really
it's kind
deep,
of mind-blowing.
really deep things.
Yeah.
So
Well,
It's
so what got to me about that moment where Omar opened up about his religion was, if you think back to season 1 of Survivor, you had Rudy and Rich make this relationship, but it started off not as friends. It started off as acceptance, and it turned into friendship. We are now 20 years later, where it didn't start off as acceptance. It started off as friendship and giving and welcoming. It's almost like we are in a very different place 2 decades later.
Yeah.
I love that,
Jo-
Sheldon.
Jonathan says so. He's like, he says, "Hey, I'm going to be praying or whatever over here," and Jonathan's like, "Hey, if you want to learn about Christianity, I got you. Like, I can definitely tell you about some stuff." Like immediately, and like you said, Sheldon, it wasn't just acceptance here. It was, hey, you do what you got to do. I'm gonna tell you about the stuff I got going on. We're friends. We're buddies out here.
And then I got to connect with a fellow bad Jew, Lindsay.
Fellow bad Jew.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, like Frank's saying in the comments, diversifying the cast gives much more opportunity for learning about yourself and learning about others.
Before we move on, I want to throw one tidbit. I know we got to keep it rolling here. We're getting bogged down. But listen, I always look at the angle of how can you game something and how can it be manipulated? And with all of this sharing, I think it's going to be crazy when we see Final 7, all the blind sides that are coming in. People are going to be so bonded and they're going to be so caring about all these backstories and all the history that they're hearing. And, it's going to give us a little bit more insight into why people are literally crying as they're casting votes and hating people for the rest of their lives when they get blindsided. And like Kevin said, this might already be happening. And this is why we find there's bitter juries and all that stuff. But like, I love it. I love seeing why people are going to be so emotional when they vote and get to watch them
so connected to each other.
Yeah, and watch these dreams just get crushed.
Yeah, and like you got to remember that there's a game happening here too. I mean, the org community is similar but not the same. Like one of the toughest games I played, Sheldon was on the other side from me, but we like connected as like people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was leading a crusade against Sheldon's side.
And I voted his ass off.
And he voted me out. But like the whole time, once I started connecting with his side, we were already too entrenched. But it was like I'm now knowing them as people, and I was liking them too much, even though I still had a job to attempt to do.
And I think that goes back to also the smaller tribes, and kind of plays into
very much so. It's a lot easier to open up in front of 4 people than it is 9.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so back to the Ega tribe, we see Drea talking about, yes, she did get this extra vote, and she is going to use it to kind of accelerate herself in the game. And she sits down in the water with Tori and Swathi and is like, hey, girls, like, we have to stick together. We got the guys outnumbered. And to help us out even more, I've got an extra vote. Y'all, why? Why can't these people just not say things?
No. That was great gameplay by Drea.
No.
That was great gameplay. Yeah.
Because,
Let me tell you.
Tell me. Convince me.
Yeah, let me tell you what. Okay, so Drea needs something to bond them, right? And for instance, Tori is on the outs as far as she's concerned. She wanted that Rox vote last time, and the Rox vote didn't happen. So she's using something like
Drea wanted that Rox vote, right? Drea.
Yeah, Drea. I'm talking about Drea. Yeah. So Drea's trying to utilize what she has to bond the 3 of them together. And so she's not going around telling everyone about her extra vote. She's not even telling the alliance that she has of Rox and Romeo that we're seeing. We're seeing her trying to get in good with the other 2 by giving them something not as important as like an idol play or something of that nature. It's an extra vote. That's literally it.
But as soon as Drea walks off, Swathi is like,
right. And we can talk about that too, but she didn't tell them about her medallion or whatever it's called. The
fair.
Sure.
Medallion of some sort.
Yeah. She didn't tell them about that one. That's a much more dangerous thing. And I would be like you guys be like, oh man, if she like brought that up, she's like, I got this extra vote. Like let's use this together because that's something that you could use together. I thought that was a great play. A great attempt at a play.
I would have had more respect for her if she brought the medallion out instead and literally gave it to one of them. That thing is such a curse. That thing is such a curse, man. that 2 other tribes are going to be coming to get you out. And that's just like,
you're
that's
not wrong,
useless.
but it's the first time it's been seen. You can't just expect new things
I
to
would
just be
get
given
rid
away.
of that thing so fast. That's no.
Well, I think the idea that she had was of not using the medallion, is what she tells them, is that in her mind she has 2 other people somewhere else that she could potentially work in the future. And what we see her modus operandi is, okay, well, I'm already close with Romeo and Roxroy. Now it's time for me to get close with Drea and
Swati and Tori.
and Tori. So she very much so seems, based on her actions, to value human relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But I
maybe
mean,
to backstab them for sure at some point. But
could she not have made
relationships?
Could she not have made that relationship just, hey girls, we have to stick together, we have them outnumbered? The same thing that she said without revealing her extra vote. And
which is why I don't understand.
We're going to see this again, coming up very, very quickly, where once again, people just cannot keep secrets. And I don't understand what the deal is.
So I actually agree with you, Kiley. I don't think this was the time for her to reveal it. I think it's okay to leverage this one day, but they're not going to tribal yet. They didn't lose. There's nobody's going against her. There's no reason to give this information. I don't get it.
I think you have to volunteer the information, because otherwise you don't come into the thing genuinely. They know that you went on the boat, right? And so then when you show them on day 12, they're like, when did you get this? Remember that boat I went on? Like day 2, 10 days
that nobody's seen anybody talk about yet. They came back and nobody.
Right, but remember that? And then obviously came back and told you guys what happened. Obviously I lied to you. I got it thin actually, and I'm just now telling you about it. Yes, because we're gonna use it together. I think you guys are off on this one. I think you mentioned it early to garner the trust.
See, my thing is, I want to make sure that I can trust you, and I would expect for you to do the same thing, or you're probably not somebody I want to work with. Like if you're running around,
someone's got to step up first, though.
You're not going to keep my secrets.
But someone's got to step up first. Someone has to step up first.
So it would have. Sorry, Robbie. I assume you want to get in, but it would have made a lot more sense for me if she would have brought that extra vote up to Roxroy and Romeo, because she already had a relationship created with them. So that's just the way to say, look, I am really with you. Look what I just got. Mm-hmm. This is how she starts creating almost like a brand new relationship.
I'm torn though. I'm torn, to be honest, whether or not she was actually trying to use that as a way to build a relationship, or if she was just afraid that, she was reeking of holding secrets. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like she's looking at it like keeping a secret on Survivor is like trying to hide that you shat your pants. Like you're like, okay, if I just stay calm, maybe nobody's going to notice. But when I get up there, they're going to smell the secret on me. You know what I mean?
It happens for the best of us.
Like that, like they're basically, like maybe she's going in there and she's like, oh crap, they can tell that I'm hiding something, right? Yeah. Everybody can see it on me. It's obvious. And I'm just going to out it. Say, yeah, my bad. It happened. Let's just get past it. I have a secret or extra vote or whatever. And that could be it.
Well, we'll see how it pans out for her. On to the Body Tribe. We've got Mike out searching for an idol, and he finds it pretty quickly. And he has his phrase that pays, and his Beware advantage says, there is such grace in the game of soccer, it makes me cry. And so he is going to have to figure out how to work this in somewhere. And he's like, I don't even like soccer.
Yeah,
like I told him about how it's not a sport.
But he was like, I don't even like soccer. I'm like, bro, like you don't actually have to.
I love that he found it. Exactly. I love that he's the one that found it.
Yeah. But we do get Mike later on coming to Jenny and being like, hey, I trust you. This is, I found this idol. It's exactly like what you see on TV.
Was this also a bad idea to you guys here?
Yes, this is a terrible idea because he doesn't just tell Jenny, he also tells Daniel. And Daniel is like, oh, yes, man, this is so great. Thank you for telling me. And what does Daniel do? He runs and tells Chanel. And now everybody knows. Yep. I mean, everyone's going to know eventually anyways because of the phrases, but Daniel isn't like the other people that are like, oh, cool, great, you're going to have an idol. He's like, hey, we have this information. How do we neutralize it?
So it was Danny. It was Danny. I call him Danny. It was Daniel that went to Chanel, correct?
Yeah.
Or was it? Yeah. Okay. So that I think was a bigger error, and not that he told Chanel, but the way that he did it. Because here's the thing: someone just came up and gave you information. It's currency. It's valuable. That's great. So you go and you tell. That is what you give, right? Telling Chanel, that's your gift. Now she knows. But then he immediately says, but I have a plan because there's 3 idols out there. And I know that if I convince them not to say the phrase, then we'll kill the 3 other idols. And he just throws all of this strategy immediately. He doesn't get there organically. He just dumps it. So not only is Chanel sitting here thinking, wow, Daniel trusts me. He's going to tell me there's a possible idol out there. Oh, wow. Now he's strategizing on a way to do, like, it's just bang, bang, information drop. Whereas if he would have went, let her know that the idol is there right away, bang, you already have the brownie points, right? Like you just earn the respect because you're sharing that currency. And then said, like, I'm threatened by this. Like, what can we do? Like, what, like, is there, like, how can we gain this? Or, and almost get there organically through a conversation with her and say, well, what if he doesn't say it? Can we, like, what, like, get there slower? But he showed how smart and strategic he is really quickly to a player.
And I mean, maybe in 4 or 5 days they've developed this type of relationship. We don't know because we haven't gotten to see it.
They even said that last week. Like this, they said it last week that this tribe was divided up into 3 groups.
Yeah, and that's her duo.
Oh,
yeah. But he already gave something. That's what I'm saying. Like he shows all of his cards. He doesn't hold anything in, and I think he could have got the same value without building the same threat of just showing her how quickly he thinks about how to game it. I think he could have got the same value without being the uber brain.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I disagree.
Because you're not telling 6 people. You're telling one person.
You're not just one person, Sheldon. You're telling your ride or die.
Yeah.
Right? You're telling the person that you trust the most. Come on, man. Like I understand that you're over here always thinking game, Robbie, but you got to remember these are people, man. And they're looking for someone that they can trust and they can believe in. And he has found that in Chanel. He's found that in Chanel.
But he's also a lawyer, right? So I feel like when he was going into that conversation, that his type of mind would have known, okay, here's the information I'm going to give, and here's the impression I want to have. And that was a very strong impression.
I think we overestimate the value of one's profession. I think they bring some of their ability. Like, I don't think he's out there as a lawyer. I think he's there as Daniel the player. And my gut is Daniel the player made a good friend in Chanel. He realized Chanel is smart as hell, and he realized that the 2 of them together could probably cause a lot of chaos in this game. And because he is now a physical liability, he actually does need to create stronger relationships with people that could get him through. So to me, I have 0 issues with this, especially he knew that Chanel won't tell anybody, and she didn't.
And in addition to that, Mike is telling him the information because he's trying to like pull him in. So then Daniel's by telling Chanel all this, Daniel's letting Chanel know anything I know from Mike, you know, because we are a pair.
I think we're all in agreement. It was a great move. And I think the only debate is I think his execution could have been smoother.
It'll be interesting to see if they are actually able to neutralize them. But back over to the Talking Beach, we get another budding duo, and very unlikely here, we get Omar and Jonathan.
Loved it. This odd couple, this weird pair, this interesting pair. Yeah. They have never. You never saw this duo coming.
Never.
Right. We had Jonathan with Lindsay. We had Omar with Fox. But we did not have these 2 right here, the odd couple.
Yeah.
So good.
And I mean, we get some really great character development also, like from Omar, where we're learning about his religion, but then we're getting to learn some facts about Omar too. And one interesting fact that he drops is that he didn't pee standing up until he was 22 years old. So I have to ask y'all, what is something that you need to confess that you didn't learn how to do till an older age, or that, something that you just wonder about? Because I always ask myself, like, what color are mirrors? And it's something I think about way too often.
Yeah.
What the hell
It's
is
hard. That is hard to try to think of something. Oh God.
I mean,
And
it's
like also I'm 36 years old. Is that right? I don't know if that's how old I am. Anyways, I can't parallel park. So, like we shouldn't hate on you.
these are just
on
things that you
Omar.
like think of like occasionally.
Yeah,
Like
just things
there's
that you.
weird confessions that I mean I did not need to know that he hadn't peed standing up till he was in his 20s.
Love it.
You know what I'm saying? Even when and then with Jonathan, it was like a revelation to him as well.
Yeah.
He's like, oh wow.
Yeah, I think this bromance though is good. Like the shame, the only shame, if there's one shame, is the fact that once again, a smaller tribe. If this was a 9-person tribe, that bromance could almost hide because nobody would see it, right? They're so different. But on this one, it's like, oh yeah, 1/3 of our tribe, or almost, well, more than that now. Like 2/5 of our tribe are walking together over there. Like you notice it. Whereas in previous seasons,
Yeah,
they
and
walk in the
they're
woods,
and they're
like,
commenting.
no one would
on
expect it. You and me, that's it. Like
And they're commenting like, "Oh, I just love their bromance time." So,
Yeah.
maybe this is something that comes back to bite them. But I think this is a really interesting duo because it is really combining the brain and brawn.
what I like. Well, that's exactly what I like about this actual pair, because if I think about, I cover Big Brother. Usually in Big Brother, you got your 4 white dudes with big muscles. They all come together and they never go far. Why?
That's
Well,
it.
not all. Because they're all exactly the same.
Yep.
And here they are both very aware that they are very different. They both complement one another. So they've got the intelligence enough to realize it's not actually, yes, I'm sure they like each other. Yes, it's a bromance, but they actually need each other's strengths to deal with their weaknesses.
brain shield and meat shield. That's how we said it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome. I can't answer your question, Kylie. I can't think of anything about what I haven't done until I was like 22 years old. I've always been standing. In fact, I poo on my hand.
Sometimes I do. Like I have like thoughts. I have
Can we
questions
rewind
like
that?
whether. I sometimes wonder whether Transformers have car insurance or like life insurance. Like, it's just something I've
Is it
pondered
one in
before.
the same? Is it one in the same?
Is it,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I
Like, do
think-
you have a
I
policy
think
when you're a car, and then
probably,
a
like,
different policy
when-
as a
when they're not
They-
transformed, it's car insurance, and then when
yeah,
they
yeah.
transform,
You gotta get like a
into-
dual policy.
Yeah.
Imagine
You gotta
the
get a
State
dual
Farm
policy.
commercials for that, or like whatever.
I don't know. I mean, there's a new Transformers movie coming out, the Beast Wars one. So I was just thinking about it
Yes.
recently. So like,
Yeah.
I mean, sorry to derail us, but that was definitely something that I've considered.
No
But
problem.
We do get Mariah sharing about her brother, and we hit on this a
Yeah.
little bit earlier. Such a touching story. I mean, everybody, at this point has been impacted by, COVID, but knowing that her brother was, a frontline worker and the very first healthcare worker to lose his life, like, fighting COVID, like, so much respect for him. And this goes back to what you were saying, Sheldon, just the emotional journey that she's been through over the last, at this point in time, it's not even probably been a year. It's not even something that you can completely comprehend. Like, I know personally, I can't comprehend what has happened in the last 2 years. Like, it is crazy what has gone on in the world. And so, to throw with this adventure, it goes back to what you were both saying about maybe this just wasn't the right time for Mariah.
But she felt like it was, right? She felt like she wanted to be out there. She said that she kept pushing it off and pushing it off. I think that if she stayed a little bit longer, we would have seen a day where it just washed over her. Because I'm sure the day was coming. But
I'm going to play amateur psychologist here.
Okay.
And I probably shouldn't, but I
Put an
will.
article on the line, so I'm an expert now. Like how the world works.
My gut says she made this choice that thinking that this trip would be what cures her pain. This trip is what's going to bring her. Even her bringing that necklace or that thing of her brother that she was going to bury.
It was look to see if she had it on at Tribal. I didn't look.
Well, I saw on her exit press that she did not bury it there.
Don't spoil what happens. Rude. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened at the end. So
It's spoiled
I think
already.
she was trying to use this experience as sort of a means to maybe get away from her family. That because she said, like, I've had to be mom, I haven't had time to deal with it. And instead of maybe taking a vacation, I think she used this as that experience. So and it's a hard thing to do, and I hope she actually did end up. And I wish her the best.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so we'll come back to, the Taku tribe in a little bit, but let's talk about the immunity challenge. I love blindfolded challenges. We have not had one in several seasons, and it is just always great fun to get to see people hurting themselves. I mean, what could go wrong, right?
As a dude, I don't like it.
Yeah,
The whole
I
time,
thought they got rid of these. I thought
Like-
they got rid of them.
like
Yeah, I kind of thought that they did too.
I like that
but-
they didn't have a whole bunch of just individual posts. Like a lot of them are
Mhm.
railings this time. I
Yeah.
felt like that was more fair for everybody. If you're gonna wail your hip or your leg off of a railing, that's one thing. But there were a lot fewer, nut shots. Just there was a couple, but not. It's not. It wasn't as.
I loved it. Have they ever done the puzzle piece blindfolded? I don't.
Yeah, they've done that once before.
I love that part of the challenge. That is
Yeah.
so difficult, and because you have to pick a loud person to actually be your caller, but this loud person also has to magically know how to do puzzles.
That was an interesting challenge. The fact that the people that were, not just an interesting challenge, the people that were chosen to be the callers was remarkable to me. Having for the Ika tribe, they had Drea. For Taku, they had Jonathan, and then for Vati, they had Lydia, right?
Well, I think the pick of Jonathan was a huge fallacy based on.
I was about to say that. I would have never had Jonathan out there, being one of the people.
Let Marianne use that voice, y'all.
Well, not just her voice, that brain. The brain. Let her use the brain, like when she's having to tell people where to put the pieces, because you have to be the one to solve the puzzle. They're just literally the monkeys putting the blocks in place. You're the one solving the puzzle.
And we see that a lot where people with deep voices, because they've got that booming voice, it's like, well, you should be the caller because you have a very distinctive voice. But deep, low voices don't carry.
Yeah,
like you need somebody who's going to be screaming on the top of that thing. And how you don't pick Marianne, I don't know.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a misstep on their part. But watching this back, it was hilarious. I was tipped off on something on Facebook, and so I decided to test it out myself whenever I was rewatching it. And I turned the captions on, and some of the things that were said were so funny. And so we get a couple quotes from Lydia, one of them being, "Both of y'all bitches, come here." And she does. It spells it out in the captions. She brought her 4 members back saying, "Both you bitches, come here." And we get Daniel on the sideline talking about, "Rocksroy, you got to cover your balls." Like, I just, watching it back, died laughing through this entire immunity challenge. It's good to have a little bit of, lightness whenever, there's some heavy subjects talked about. So
I also like that this challenge, it seems that there's like a puzzle, not a physical puzzle, but there is sort of a process of what all of the Survivor challenges are. It's let's do something physical, let's do something water, let's do a puzzle at the end. And although this was kind of similar to that, having that blindfold completely changed it. It didn't feel like it's the same challenge time and time and time and time again. It felt different, which was great.
Yeah, and so we see Lydia just do a really, really great job of directing her team through the puzzle, and they do finish first, and it is coming down to the wire. I mean, they are both working on their last piece between Taku and the Ika tribe, and the Ika tribe manages to squeeze that last piece in, and we have Taku going to tribal council.
Shocking.
So are y'all shocked by this? You are.
I mean, we talked about them not being that great, and then we were proven wrong in the first episode. But then right here, when you had to have Jonathan do a thing that was outside of his typecast, it made it a little bit more difficult.
Right. He couldn't drag boats and push sleds. Yeah. He was having to use, all of him, his brain and his voice, not just his physical strength.
Correct.
So sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
So having him be the caller, like Robbie said, seemed like the gravest mistake that they could have made.
It was also not just a mistake for the tribe. I think it was a mistake for him because it showed his flaws. I don't know. I don't know why he would do.
His flaws were evident. They knew going in. I mean, he not only does he not succeed in doing the triangles puzzle early in episode 1, he states multiple times that I'm going to be the guy that moves stuff. You guys do the brain stuff.
He needs that though. Right? And who knows in real life, right? In real life outside the
Robbie,
game.
do not try to tell me how this is a game.
No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, like, I doubt that he gets, put in corners like that.
Yeah.
But in this game, putting himself in those corners and outing, like, I am not a threat in any of this type of thing is great for him to see.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And skipping a little bit ahead to tribal council, very evidently, it's going to come down to a Marianne versus Mariah type situation. We'll get back in a second to the planning, but hitting on what you were saying, Robbie, Jonathan is asked a question about, different strengths and stuff at tribal council. And he says, there's physical strength, there's, mental strength, and there's social strength. And I loved that he very much pointed out that there are other aspects to look at. Don't just get blinded by me over here being, the size of a mountain,
He is huge though. Like huge. It's so hard. And then in that first episode when he was pulling that boat, I've never seen anything like that on Survivor before.
Yeah.
No.
He's crazy.
Yeah, and you mentioned Australian Survivor earlier, Sheldon. And when you watch that, there are guys his size.
Yes.
But then there's also another one and another one and another one. And if they're not, then at least they're comparable in some way or close. And he stands out. So this is great for him to look weak a couple times. But what I'm really curious about to see next episode is if it comes out, did he put himself in that position? Did he say, I'll be the caller, and that was a mistake and that was just bad judgment on his part? Mm-hmm. Or did they say, you got a booming voice, you should be the caller?
So y'all think it should have been Marianne who should have been the caller?
Yeah. I feel like voice-wise, it should have been Marianne, but maybe they didn't choose Marianne because she seems like she might get frazzled.
Well I feel like Omar or Marianne.
Yeah, I would have thought Omar.
Yes, I'm going to call her Sydney. Lindsay is athletic, and you want her in the challenge, right? There's spinning, there's climbing, there's a bunch of stuff that you got to do. You want Lindsay out there competing. Yeah. Mariah, I don't know.
No, I don't think Mariah.
Maybe her voice would carry, right? But I just think the voice alone, let alone puzzle problem, was better.
Yeah. But back to their beach, and it is coming down to Marianne or Mariah. Kind of, do we go with the person that we think later on is going to be able to build the social bonds, and maybe even keeping like the flashy thing, like look at Marianne, you can't miss her. Or do we want to take Mariah, somebody that, is very easy to get along with, very chill, and, this is where they're contemplating. So who do you think really drove the decision on which way the votes were going to go?
Well, it's clear to me there is that Omar and Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I think they do have the Lindsay as a third.
I think that more than anything, I think it's Jonathan. I think Jonathan is the one that drove that vote because we see him saying, I understand the problems with Marianne, but I've got a connection with her. And Jonathan has surpassed all of my expectations for him because completely judged the book by a cover, thought he was just going to be dumb and,
meathead,
able to do physical things. But, we're getting to see him develop as a character and having some strategy. So really love what I'm seeing from Jonathan. And I think he's the one that drove this decision.
I was leaning more towards Omar on this, just based on what the show showed us. But it's hard to say. But what I do like is the fact that Omar went around and did a lot of talking. And this is something that we don't see a lot of, in my opinion, or enough of, I should say, is people who know that someone else is getting voted out still go to them and lie to them to their face, and especially pre-jury, right? just burn that bridge completely as if they're going to trust you, because at least at that point, they're not going to be putting your name out there. Because if they're grasping at straws, they think, well, there's a 50-50, they might actually work with me, then your name's not the one that's going to be put out, as long as you're not offensive about it, right? So I like seeing Omar go around.
And I don't know that. I assume that the two of them definitely weighed the options. I wouldn't say he like drove this vote. There was only two decisions to be had, right? There was only two people they were really looking at, in either Marianne or Mariah. So it since those were the only two names on the table, which one do you like more? And this is where I think, Kiley, in the beginning of this show, you're like, proved you guys wrong. I don't think so, because when it was time to decide, they didn't go with the one that was annoying, allegedly. They went with the one that was annoyed by her, because
exactly they got rid of the whiner. Yeah,
but
they got rid of the whiner.
She was
but
so
they're
hold
pointing
on.
it out
She
now.
was so endearing. Jonathan literally said, "I love her," because
Well, they're pointing it out now because I think it's going to be her downfall in the end. So I'm just saying that I think this will come back.
I think what Marianne needs is to have someone she's working really closely with get blindsided and just get crushed. And it might just dial her back a little bit, just in that shock. And that might help her, right? Just push her back internal a little bit. Because right now she's trusting everybody. She's just saying, open book, whatever's in here is out here. And if you're strategic like Omar, you want that around. Because you're going to be able to tell what's on her mind. You're going to be able to tell what Marianne is thinking. And on top of that, if there's a weird swap and you happen to be down in numbers, it's just you and Marianne, man, like Marianne's very visible.
Yeah,
right?
That's
very
what I'm saying.
visible.
Like, it's easy to keep the flashy, shiny thing because it takes the attention off of me. But going
That's
in,
Omar's shtick. That's his shtick. He's keeping John around and he wants to keep Marianne around. He's hiding perfectly.
Marianne is a shout shield. This is somebody who you want her. Mariah is very easy to have fade to the background, and to me, this was absolutely the right move because of that.
A great merge, like non-threat now, right?
Exactly.
Somebody who goes through merge in Mariah is no longer there.
Exactly.
But at Tribal Council, we get Marianne. We kind of missed this whenever we were talking earlier, but she gets vulnerable and she is talking about how she had her crush on Zach. He is, like every white boy she's ever had a crush on, but everyone that she's ever had,
they all reject her.
They're not interested in her. And that's just another thing, like, seeing somebody be really vulnerable.
118-pound stallion right there. He's this is
maybe it happens off of the beach.
She is just so likable. I'm not going to take this Kiley.
I like her. I'm just saying, I think this is going to be her downfall.
No, she's endearing.
I drafted her on every team. I want Marianne to do well. I'm just telling you what would happen if I was out there.
It oozes, Kiley. It oozes. These people are not going to be not annoyed by her. Though she has a ton of energy, all of it is authentic, and that's why they kept her. Because we get to the vote, and Mariah plays her shot in the dark, and
not safe.
She knew that she needed to play it because at some point someone told her it's going to be you.
Yeah.
Could somebody explain the shot in the dark? Does it reset to 1 in 6 chances every time?
I don't think we know that.
That's what production says at the start. They just say it's a 1 in 6 chance, but the question is like, okay, so if the first person puts it in and then the next person goes up. Like
so it's now 1 in 5.
Do they retop it up, or was it 1 in 6 because the tribe was 1 in 6? But what got me, and I was about to call foul so bad if that came back safe, was that Jeff was holding it and Jeff opened it, and it felt like a Big Brother production manipulation moment, just written all over. Like we can't go 3 or 4 of these in a row with not safe, not safe, not safe. Someone's got to be safe. Yeah. And the fact that he opened it, I'm like, oh no. Please tell me.
I thought that was interesting.
And then when he said not safe, I was like, okay, good.
But I don't think. Why would they do it to her? Like I think they would have done it if it was Marianne.
Because here's the thing: how many people actually use it, right? So
but I'm with Sheldon. That does for Mariah. It didn't seem like producer interference would be what makes sense here.
No,
Yeah.
I just mean the scarcity in the play, right? The scarcity in
Yeah.
the play. How few people play it. Production only has a few chances, and if that was, let's say that's the last time this season someone plays it because the votes are so valuable now, and then you go 2 seasons of no, like it's a pointless thing.
Yeah.
it's
It's
not
not
going
pointless
back.
though. It's worth the risk.
Oh, I agree. It's
If
the
you
right
know
play.
you're going home.
Yeah.
Well,
and
what do
it's
y'all think
credit-
about it being used like first 2 episodes this season? Last season we only used it once, and it was far into the
Well,
game.
Sheldon, the reason we only used it once last season was because Shan was a master at letting people think that they were safe and they were not. I mean, Shan did that multiple times where she told them, "I'm with you."
It was Sydney, wasn't it? Sydney that
Yeah,
did it
Sydney
last
used
year.
it post.
Sydney used it.
And
Sydney
if she
did use
didn't
it.
do it, she would have been safe.
Yeah.
'Cause it-
She
If,
So,
if you think the votes are coming your way, that's why you want to use it, right? And so Zach knew the votes were coming his way last week. This week, Mariah knew the votes were coming her way, so you got to go for it.
Yeah.
So this is interesting to me because Kevin, you were talking about how telling your information is such good game strategy versus now you're saying it's game strategy that Shan's making people feel good and not telling them you're going home?
By telling them information, by making them think that she's telling them information, Shan made people feel comfortable because they felt like they had a connection because she's telling them information. It's not her information, but it's others.
Yeah.
But it was her giving other people like JD's vote. By her talking about JD's vote is exactly playing into what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
the
if
reverse cry
Chanel,
wolf. Yeah.
if Chanel wanted to blindside Daniel, and like when if they were to go, Daniel would not play his shot in the dark if Chanel was taking him out.
Correct.
Because he would look to Chanel and say, "Should I?" And she'd be like, "You're good.
You good."
Yeah.
So are Jonathan, Omar, and Lindsay not making the right moves? Like they're letting people know that they're like they let Mariah know, whether it be told them, which we didn't see, or made her feel like she's going.
Oh, I think it's Marianne. I think it's Marianne's open book policy that let everybody know what's happening. Whether Omar did his best to say you're not going, and he even said at Tribal that you have to lie to people so they feel comfortable, so they don't use their shot in the dark. Like he even said that, right? And I think this is as simple as you see. If you saw Marianne now knowing how she is, right? When Jackson got the boot, she just broke down, right? When like, every time that there's an emotional moment, positive or negative, Marianne's 100% in. And if Marianne was relaxing and sitting in the tent, or not freaking out, or not crying and bawling because she knew she was going home or didn't feel. You would, right? That's all you would need. You'd be like, okay.
You should be worried. Yeah.
That's my barometer right there.
I agree.
Watch Marianne.
Really easy. So do y'all think that moving forward, this group of 4 is stronger or weaker?
Well, listen, I think we stumbled upon a weakness, and that is Marianne's inability to keep things to herself, emotionally or even maybe verbally. I think they are stronger together, but I don't think this is a group of 4. I think this is a group of 3 with a Marianne.
Yeah, and so one thing that I thought was really, really interesting was listening to the Next Time on Survivor. Jeff makes a comment. We saw like them all like in the water and the waves are crashing, and he says, "Both teams stop."
Whoop!
Did he say both or did he say all?
He said both. He said both.
He says both. And so that just makes me think that maybe we're going to have a swap into 2 teams, unless one team was already.
No. I thought that there was 2 teams that were struggling and one team that was done, and the 2 teams that were struggling were struggling so bad that Jeff was like, "Stop the thing. We're going to Tribal."
No. I mean, it definitely looks like because of the elements that he is stopping the challenge. And he says both teams. I think that it's just a slight little oversight on their part, possibly. We'll see what happens. What do y'all think?
I never thought of that. I would love a swap, actually, with larger teams than smaller teams. How many players do we have left? We have 3 gone?
Yeah,
3 gone.
So we're at 15.
Mm-hmm.
So that's tough to
bring in. Not likely, but
somebody had. I mean, it might be something different where maybe it's some, I don't know, some weird reward challenge, which it looks like an immediate challenge to me. Maybe somebody had to sit out, like schoolyard pick, you didn't get picked. I don't know, like maybe it's an Erica thing. You gotta.
I just have to read into everything, and I noticed that little word by Jeff, and so just thought I'd bring it up, see what might come of it. So anything else to add about this episode? I thought it was a good one. I'm excited for next week. I'm really loving this season so far.
I think we're seeing. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm loving the season too. I want more strategy. I like that more than that social. Like, let me tell you the story of my life. That's what I love in these games. It's just 42, 43 minutes, so it makes it difficult. But it was a great episode. I want to see them scheming. That's what I want to see them come up with. Okay, we have to tell this person this in order so that they tell that person that, and I want that.
I feel like there's Omar stuff, and coming into the season, I was the opposite of a fan of Omar. I thought that this was going to go very, very poorly for Omar, but I think that there's a whole side of the confessionals from him that we're not seeing. I get that gut feeling, and I could be completely wrong, as anybody could, but I get that feeling that he's really playing the long game. Like I said, keeping everybody he can that's more visible than him around, trying to make everybody feel bonded to him by bringing up, embarrassing stories and things like that. And, I think that there's more to Omar than meets the eye at this point.
My dog feels exactly the same about him. He loves him.
So before we wrap things up, Sheldon, you didn't realize it, but me, Robbie, and Kevin were playing a game within a game tonight, and we each had a beware advantage phrase that we had to work in. So can you guess what our 3 beware advantage phrases were?
No, I cannot. No, you are evil people.
Our idols work. We're going to idle Sheldon out of the game.
Yep, we all have our idols. We managed to work in our 3 phrases. Robbie, what was your phrase?
Mine was keeping a secret on Survivor is like hiding that you shat yourself.
Oh, that is so good.
Man, that was hard to work in.
And I set you up twice. I'm just saying.
I know you were trying hard, but I had to let it slide a little bit.
And mine was, I always ask myself, what color are mirrors? And
now pause for a sec. Now can you guess what Kevin's was?
No.
Okay.
When I asked about the Transformers having
oh my God.
car insurance or life insurance.
I love that. Thank you so much.
So we successfully said our phrases.
My idol's active.
That's it.
We had a little game within a game.
I'm playing it. I'm putting it on right now.
We had so much fun tonight, Sheldon. We are so glad that you joined us. Do you have anything to plug?
To play. So I got 2 thoughts. Thought number 1, I feel a little left out of this alliance, and I'm a little sad here. But that's okay. I'll get y'all back at some point. But any fans who are listening to the Survivor coverage, check out For the Fans coverage of Big Brother Canada tomorrow night, Fridays and Tuesdays, where we are going to be covering everything Big Brother Canada. Been a really interesting season so far. Crazy week this week. Let's see who leaves the house and who wins HOH tomorrow. So
and we should have a special guest joining us tomorrow. Maybe a little certain somebody from BB Can 1. But we'll just, drop that as a little teaser. You need to come and join us tomorrow night at 8 Eastern to see who it is. Kevin, anything to plug?
Yeah, so check that out tomorrow right here on the page. It's coming to you live. We will be doing the recap of both the veto episode and the eviction episode, so definitely check that out. Also, in addition, for myself, going over to DCOM After Dark, we have a new episode up covering Luck of the Irish, which is a Disney Channel original movie that came out in 2001 starring Ryan Merriman, and he's a leprechaun, and it was great, so check that out. Got that out of here. It was a fantastic flick. Check that out. Robbie, what about you?
No, honestly, I was going to say, I feel like I'm a failure of a Canadian here right now. I'm so far behind on Big Brother Canada that, it's a bit embarrassing. So I got to catch up on a little bit of that and catch up on Sheldon and you guys' podcast. And then I'll feel less of a failure of a Canadian.
All right. Well, we will be back next week recapping episode 3 of Survivor. And
Kylie, I have one question for Robbie. Robbie, do you guys have cows in Canada, or does everyone just eat chicken? Because I've noticed that there's this Wendy's situation on Big BB Can.
Oh yeah,
everyone gets a chicken
Ooh,
sandwich.
spicy chicken.
Yes, the spicy chicken.
Spicy chicken. Spicy chicken. You gotta have a poutine on the side there. You gotta have a medium frosty and a Coke. All right.
Okay, so in the comments, drop a. Do you prefer chicken or a hamburger? Because I think the Americans are going to say hamburger.
Give me a burger, but so
Canadians are
many
gonna say
spicy chicken sandwiches. There's just
I want
so
one right
many.
now. You mentioned it. That's it.
Why are you so
All right, y'all.
DoorDash, whoever's listening, send me a spicy chicken.
We will see you guys next week. Bye.